Please like, comment, and subscribe to help grow my channel. Our story starts with our protagonist kneeling in the midst of dead bodies after a horrifying and bloody battle. With dead bodies scattered all over the place, our protagonist is in a daze, trying to process what just happened. Before he's done with his processing, he hears a dark, gloomy voice coming from the giant saying, "Ahayut failed to think there was a human this strong." "You fucker, you're still alive," the protagonist shouted, thinking the giant was already dead. This was the giant that appeared in the Empire 20 days ago. It was the last of the 3 giants that appeared and brought about distraction without any known reason. Our protagonist was frustrated, knowing that the giant was still alive and that the Empire's land had become a graveyard all because of it. As the protagonist was talking, the giant interrupted him, saying not to worry, that the end is coming soon. The protagonist mockingly agreed, telling the giant that he would be joining his friends soon. "Friends?" the giant asked. The protagonist then went on to explain that he was not the first one to appear. The first one was burnt to a crisp by a dragon. The second one was sealed by a wizard, and now he was next to join them. The giant responded, saying even if that was so, all the heroes who won equally died, and he could see that the protagonist was reaching his limit, and after his death, there won't be any other strong human left to oppose them. "Stop sprouting nonsense." The protagonist told the faint, but the giant insisted, telling the protagonist, if only had he realized his talents earlier, he would have been a huge obstacle to deal with. The protagonist agreed, saying that he had lived a messed up life and that he didn't have to be reminded. The giant said that he was still an impressive human and should be proud of his accomplishments. However, in the end, your world will end, vanish, buried by the starlight. Just as he finished talking, the protagonist had enough of his barking and slashed his pussy head off clean. "Sorry, I mean his head off." The giant's head fell to the ground with a loud thud. The scene then shifts to the protagonist having flashbacks of his life, the good times he had with his friends. These scenes popped up in his head as he was looking at the dead bodies of his friends, thinking to himself why they never run away instead of staying and fighting till death. As the protagonist was in deep thought, he heard a voice coming from the other side. To hear another person's voice, he ran to see who it was. The voice said that she was injured and couldn't move. Our protagonist followed the voice, only to find that it was the general who was still alive. He was happy to find the general, though she lost an arm in the midst of battle. "General Adation, you look like shit." The protagonist jokingly said, "A general shouldn't be looking like that." The general then asked the protagonist Ronan if the giant was dead with a serious expression on her face. Ronan then confirmed, that's the giant was dead, and he left the body no so far away. From this news, the general shed a tear of relief, and from the bottom of her ass, from the bottom of her heart, thanked the corporal Ronan. As Ronan heard this, with a slight smile, he wanted to ask a favor from the general. Then general asked what the favor was, and Ronan replied that it was for his friends to have proper gravesite. The general then asked why he couldn't do it himself. Ronan responded, saying that he was dying and wouldn't manage. The general then told him that the search party would come as soon as the rain stopped. The general then asked that he would do if he survives. Ronan looked to the sky and said that he would attend the academy. Adeshan was shocked and asked why the academy. Ronan said that it was his late sister's wish, but it was okay since he was going to meet her. The general insisted, saying the search party would be there soon as they were talking. It stopped raining all of a sudden. Ronan and the general were both shocked. Right before they could come to their senses, they felt a strong evil aura coming from the sky. As they both looked up, they saw more giants appear from nowhere. Ronan shouted, "Where the hell are they coming from?" as Ronan was readying himself for battle. Adeshan phases out and started asking herself why she failed even for the... Here, we then find out that Adeshan was a regresser and had regressed 3 times already, and was only remaining with one more chance as she was in a daydream. Ronan shouted her name and asked her to prepare for battle. The general came back to her senses and asked Ronan if he was still going to fight. Ronan responded, saying he will fight until he dies. At this moment, Adeshan looked at Ronan with different eyes, acknowledging that he was the reason that even reached that far. Then the general then called Ronan Lend into what seemingly looked like a kiss. But in reality, she was passing on something to him soon after she whispered in his ear to activate the charm. Ronan pulled away from the general and asked what she had put in his mouth, but instead she asked that if they should meet, he should tell her to be a tailor instead.
Ronin was lost, not knowing what was happening before he could realize the giant launched an attack that caused an explosion. The scene then shifts to Ronin, waking up, shouting the general's name as he opens his eyes. He realizes that he's back in his hometown, asking himself if he really returned to the past. The story continues from where Ronin was seated under a tree trying to grasp the situation, trying to figure out if he truly regressed or if he was dreaming.
Just then Ronin had a flashback of the day of the battle, when Adeshen, the general, explained to him that she had already regressed 3 times and failed. So she gave the last chance to Ronin see that he was a better fit. She told him to sharpen his skills and to attend the Filian Academy as it was the best in the world.
The scene then shifts to the present where it is seen that Ronin is hitting his head on the tree, trying to wake himself up, only to realize the truth that he actually regressed.
In a split second, he realized that if he was in the past, that his sister was still alive. He then stopped what he was doing, picked a stick, then run home, excited to see his elder sister again. As Ronin made his way through the town, he noticed something. He noticed a couple of bullies who he remembered from his past life. Just as he was about to pay no attention to them, he then noticed a boy hanging on the tree. Was it the boy was hanging without a rope shortly after he noticed a girl performing the magic to keep the boy in midair. The scene then shifts to boy being held in the air, thinking at the rate at which things were going, the bully was going to seriously hurt him. The girl performing the magic was equally worried, but was too scared to speak up to the bullies. Just as she was thinking this, the bully approached the boy on tree, asking him for money, but the hanging boy insisted that he had no money left as he bought for his mother some medicine, and that the medicine was very expensive. The bull couldn't care less, and slapped the shit out of the hanging boy, telling him that he should have worked harder so that he could have had more money.
Seeing that the boy was not willing to leave any money, the bully instructed the girl to raise the boy higher.
The girl in shock responded, saying that if she did that, she might hurt the boy. The bully turned and with a menacing face told the girl that if she didn't do it, she would join the guy on the tree hanging. She knew that what they were doing was wrong and was trying to gather courage to tell the bullies to stop. The magician then had a flashback that the only reason she learnt magic was to show people that she was also good at something. Just as she mastered enough courage to tell them to stop, she got hit in the head with a stick. She then lost concentration and dropped the boy. She turned around only to find that the person that hit her was Ronin.
The bully also turned around to see exactly what happened. To his surprise, he found Ronin.
Here we see Ronin not paying attention to the bullies, but instead talks to the girl to find out how long she's been doing magic and where she learned it from.
This was because our protagonist felt that she would be of importance in the near future. She then explains to Ronin that she was self-taught and that she learned from a book she bought.
As Ronin was talking to her, the bully approached from behind.
The bully pulled out his sword, shouting that he would take his revenge. Ronin paid no attention to him. Seeing this, the bully got irritated and launched attack.
Just as he was about to hit Ronin, Ronin swiftly dodged his attack with ease. Seeing this, the bully was in shock, wonder how Ronin managed to dodge. The bully quickly regained his composure and decided to launch threats instead. He then told Ronin to surrender and that he in turn will let Ronin live and take good care of his sister, seeing that she had a nice ass and that he had been eyeing her for some time now.
Just as the words fell in Ronin's ears, his mood changed and in one swift movement cut the bully's bitch ear off with the stick, hand in hand.
With a vicious eyes, he then looked at the bully, asked the bully if he had a death wish.
The bully's minions looked at Ronin with horror, trying to comprehend how he managed to cut their leader's ear off clean with just a stick.
The minions stood with fear and never made a move against Ronin, smart bastards. Ronin then turned his attention back to the leader, kicked him hard in the stomach, asked him to return what he had gotten from the boy, and told him to put extra for disturbing his mood. Ronin then gave the money to the boy, and Ronin got the sword for himself. Just as the two were exchanging words and thank yous,
the voice of the girl could be heard in the background, clearing her throat.
She then mastered up the courage and apologized to the boy and explained that she was forced in doing those deeds and was scared that they would pick on her instead. The boy understood and accepted her apology. That being said, the boy then said his goodbyes and left. After he left, Ronan then shifts his attention to her. He then told her that he had use of her and that they should meet in the next 4 days. Just as Ronan was about to leave, the then turnaround looked at her with evil eyes and threatened her. Soon after, Ronan ran home. The scene then shifts to Ronan, standing at the door of his sister's house, wondering what he was going to tell her. Just as he was about to leave without seeing his sister, the sister then suddenly approached the door and opened it. Just then, the scene then shifts to a flashback of Ronan on the battlefield, wondering what he would tell his sister if he had one last chance to see her. The scene shifts back to the present with Ronan standing with the flowers at the door, and all he could say was, "I am back." The sister was so excited to receive flowers from her young brother. Just as they were at the table eating, Ronan then asked his sister how old she was. The sister then replied saying 20. From this, Ronan realized that he had exactly 10 years before the giants appear. Just the Ronan told his sister that he would like to attend the academy. The sister in shock again, this time even more happy that she told Ronan that she had been waiting for this news, and then showed Ronan the money she saved for Ronan to attend the academy.
Ronan, moved by his sister's gesture, smiled and told her use the money, that the money needed was more than that. Ronan then told his sister the academy he planned to go to, then shouted with shock.
The scene then shifts back to the day of his regression, where his general Adishan instructed him to visit the empire's best leading academy, that there he will have the best guidance, because it was filled with the best professors, and was founded by a lot of rich people. The story continues from where Ronan, our protagonist, was on his way to meet the magician in the forest, thinking to himself how expensive the academy is, and even if that was so, his sister still showed him willingness to help. So he decided to do his best for her so as to make her proud.
But before he could do so, he first has to find a way to raise the money, or just find the money to enter the academy.
Just as he was thinking this, he found the magician that he had told to meet him there after 4 days was already waiting for him. Ronan was shocked, thinking that she wouldn't show up. The magician then replied saying as though she had a choice, remembering how Ronan threatened her. Ronan, indifferent, brushed off the comment, dropped his bag and asked Asil to do a text. Asil was caught unaware.
Ronan asked her to perform the trick she did the previous day and asked her to lift him as high as she could.
Tate used telekinesis. Asil asked Ronan in a small voice. She then explained that it was dangerous.
But Ronan,
being a Chad, told her not to worry,
that he couldn't die from it and she shouldn't be scared.
Asil agreed. The moments later, GE made the spell and lifted Ronan from the ground to the air. In his past life, the giants were too huge to deal any damage, so for Ronan to reach it, the team of magicians had to use telekinesis to lift him. Telekinesis was a rare ability even among mages. Thinking of this, he then turned to look at Asil, saying that she would be the most important person need when the time comes to face the giant. Just as Ronan was thinking, this Asil was reaching her limit and asked if she let him down now. But Ronan asked her to hold it a bit longer. There was something he wanted to try. Moments later, Ronan said that he would come down by himself.
As soon as he said those words, Ronan with a swift movement sliced through the magician's mana.
Asil was shocked and asked Ronan what exactly the move was. He just executed the move that allowed him to cut through mana.
Ronan acted dumb and said that it was some acrobatic movement, that's all.
Then she tried to persist, but instead only got her head hit by Ronan soon after he changed the topic.
Then we see Ronan having thoughts on how his sword was the only one able to work against the giant and deal damage. He was given a mission to find it as to why it was like that.
The scene then shifts to Ronan, giving Asil a bag and explaining to her that he intends to join the Filion Academy and she was coming with him.
Asil was in shock, asking Ronan how come with her. Asil then continued telling Ronan that at least he had martial arts, but she in turn had nothing. She was weak and a coward.
Ronan with a serious face called out Asil's name and asked if she had wanted to continue to be a weak-ass bitch, a pussy, cat who fails to stand up for herself. Instead uses her talents wastefully by entertaining fucking punks. Asil took time to think about Ronan said and realized that Ronan actually cared deeply for her, With this, she found her new resolve and told Ronan that she wanted to change.
Ronan then told her that she needs to jump the first hurdle for her to become a strong person.
As soon as Ronan turned his face, he showed a menacing smile, thinking to himself that she failed for his plan.
The scene shifts to Asel's shocked face. Asking Ronan if the first hurdle he mentioned has something to deal with the goblins. Ronan, with a calm face, said that these goblins were good opponents for her and would help her grow fast.
The lunar goblin, a type of goblin that commonly appears in their area, different from other goblins with yellow skin and ugly bodies.
But the true traits of the goblins are that they love treasure. They would attack merchants and steal their valuables. After this, they would hold a festival on a night of a full moon. The reason Ronan and the magician were there was to steal the gold from the goblins.
Ronan then hugged Asel and told her she would use telekinesis to get the gold since the goblins were asleep.
He then told her that if she made a mistake, the goblin would wake up and they would be fucked.
Asel, after hearing this, wanted to retreat, that the mission was too dangerous. Ronan held her back and explained to her that the only way to enter Filian Academy was by two ways. First, they needed finances to afford the tuition and real-life experience. The Filian Academy is full of rich kids from elite families who have had elite training from birth. If Asel wanted to win against them, she had to gain experience through risking her life. Ronan said this with a dark smile on his face. After the pep talk, Ronan said it was decided that they would take the money first. Asel was scared, but knew deep down heart knew that what Ronan said was true.
The scene then shifts to where Asel has started moving the golden with her power.
Soon after they were done, Ronan was thinking to himself that he had found a rather sharp magician. They then decided to park up and leave fast before they were discovered. Just as they were about to leave, another group of people passed in the forest, making a lot of noise trying to catch something.
The goblins heard the noise and woke up.
The scene then shifts to the goblin waking up and find out that their gold was stolen. As Rona and Asel were trying to leave, the goblins noticed them and rushed to them with great speed. Asel was scared and knelt down with a huge thud. She suggested that they leave the bags and run away. Ronan denied. Instead, he dropped his bag and placed his hand on his sword.
With a calm face, complained that the sword was cheap and would last only 15 attacks before it breaks.
As the goblins rushed towards them, Asel shouted to Ronan that the goblins were getting closer.
Ronan was only counting the number of strikes he had.
As soon as they reached in range, Ronan, with one violent slash, all their heads were cut off. Seeing the blood splashing all over, he then said with a voice full of bloodlust,
14 left.
Our story continues from where our protagonist Ronan is killing the last of the goblins. He looks like he was enjoying it, with his eyes dripping red with bloodlust. As Ronan was in his blood raid in the sidelines of Asel, the magician looks to be in total shock, as she couldn't believe that Ronan had killed all the goblins by himself. She marveled at how he killed 3 goblins with just one strike, and for the others that came, he slashed through them as though he was cutting dry grass.
Ronan moved at such incredible speed that he looked as though he was teleporting, disappearing at one moment and reappearing in the other.
As this continued to happen, heads kept on flying off.
Raining heads. Ronan slashed the goblins like the bitches there were. Bitch slapping them left, right, and center.
He did it all in style, making it look like a bloody work of art. Just then, Ronan looked at Asel, asking why she had a dumb expression on her face. Ronan explained to her that they had to quickly pack and leave. As they were on their way back, Ronan noticed that his body was still weak and that the simple movement he executed earlier made him tired and his body sore.
He then decided that he had to have a workout routine to get his body back to the way it was in order for him to be battle ready. As they were walking back, Asel asked Ronan what made the noise back there to disturb the goblin's sleep.
Ronan also never knew.
Just as they were moving, Ronan felt an evil and menacing aura. From nowhere, an arrow came flying, heading straight to Asel's head. As she turned her head, she saw the arrow nearing her. Probably, she saw her life flash before her eyes. Lucky Ronan was with her, and with his quick reflexes caught the arrow just before it could reach Asel's brains.
Ronan, unfazed, looked very irritated, asking what happening now.
Asel, in shock, shouted an arrow.
Ronin asked who shot the arrow. To his surprise, it was two guys, who then expressed their apologies, saying that the forest was a dangerous place to be at night for young kids.
Ronin in turn asked with a face full of bloodlust, "Who the fuck are you?"
The guys then introduced themselves while launching a surprise attack, saying that they were Caliboro.
Caliboro, Ronin looked at dead sharply eyes, as though he was looking at dead corpses.
Then launched a counterattack, killing one of the guys in an instant. The other Caliboro, seeing this, tried to attack Ronin from behind, but instead was held by Esel's magic as she sharply warned Ronin. The guy caught by surprise noticed that he couldn't move, but before he could fully understand, Ronin rushed at him with great speed, slashed him to fucking pieces. Just as he wanted to find out who they were, the Caliboro's body broke to pieces. Ronin, with an unbothered face, just stared at them. Esel asked Ronin why he had just killed them. He told, saying they were Caliboro.
The Caliboro. Poaching, kidnapping, and human trafficking, the group that does every single crime possible. The Empire's most evil group.
Ronin was surprised that Esel knew about them.
Ronin then explained that if he hadn't killed them, her organs would have been harvested, and that, knowing who they were and letting them live, was a crime.
As they were talking, the bag, which the gang members was carrying, started moving.
Even before the bag could be fully untied, something flew out with great speed,
only to realize that it was a blue bird. Ronin noticed that the bird was cuffed by mana restriction shackles. Just as they were deciding on what to do with the bird,
a voice came from the bird, and Esel was scared, thinking that the bird could talk.
Ronin then explained that it was communication magic. Ronin then noticed the bag used to carry the bird was also a bag that could block mana.
The person on the other side explained that he was the caretaker of the bird and has been trying to get a hold of it.
Ronin explained that his bird was captured by poachers, and they engaged in a fight with them then after freeing his bird. Ronin asked if the bird could make it back home by itself. The owner agreed, so Ronin, with broke the shackles off the birds. Soon after, the bird gave its ass to Ronin. The owner of the bird then instructed Ronin to get a feather from the bird,
that the next time they're in the city, it will serve as evidence.
As Ronin got the feather, the bird also left something on Ronin's hand. The scene then shifts to a few days later, where Ronin is seen with a merchant exchanging some of the valuables with money. Ronin found an honest merchant who gave home a good price and was happy because the rest of the merchants tried to rip him off. Ronin then removed what the bluebird left in his hands and asked the merchant to value it. The merchant looked at it close and thought it was some horse shit. Please like, comment, and share to help grow my channel.